our next topic, I thought that we would talk about something fun today. So, so there was an interesting story at that came on to the media, Civil Beat. Actually, it's one of the online sort of newspapers, if you will, and it talked about and said the story was basically saying that Hawaii may not be the richest state, but it's one of the happiest. So, kind of what it basically what the article talked about was it basically said that Hawaii has a very large percentage of people that are sort of living on the edge, financially, that having a hard time making ends meet. The pay's not so hot. However, so we kind of rank low on the economic scale. I think I mentioned this before in a previous show. We're kind of ranking low on the economic scale. We're near the bottom of the barrel if you kind of any sort of economic measurements. Yeah, that's we did talk about that at the previous show. We're at the bottom pretty much of all the economic measurements, right? Always the however, comma, we're at the top of the happiness measurements. So if there's surveys that talk about happies, that we rank consistently, rank high. It says in studies looking at well-being, Hawaii ranks second after Massachusetts in 2021 and ranked in the top 10, usually in the top spot year after year after year. Gallup was mentioned. So here's the interesting part, right? So this is really what Hawaii is all about, right? The Hawaii is that there is a trade-off. There's what we call it, the price of paradise. Economically, if you're looking at getting rich, Hawaii's probably not the right place for you. Not to say that it can happen, but it's probably not the right place for you. This is not the place you want to go to if you kind of quote want to get rich, but it is the place where you want to go to if you want to live happy. And so that's the question. And that's the question for you all, right? The question for you all is, what's your trade-off, right? If you had a choice, right? And let's just make it really, really clear. Let's just kind of make it, let's just kind of really kind of lay this out, right? Here's the choice, gang. And I'd love to hear what you think. If the choice was you're gonna barely get by, you are gonna get by, but you're gonna barely get by. You're just gonna live sort of at them, and let's just say a minimal level, whatever that means, right? Your choice is minimal level and happy in Hawaii. Minimal level and happy, or all the creature comforts you could ever ask for, but you're living in a place that you don't really like. It's not Hawaii. You're not quite happy with the environment, but you got the big 5,000 square foot home with the pool and the 4-car garage and the 4 cars and all the kind of good stuff. And you're going out and you're enjoying it. And you got great clothes and all this. You got all the creature comforts. What is it? What's your trade-off? Happy or wealthy? You can't have both. Maybe that's an easier way to say it. You want happy or wealthy? What would you take? It's almost an obvious question for me, but that's the question. So I'd like to kind of get, why don't we kind of go, let's go Dylan and then Scott. Dylan, this is always a choice, right? This is a choice for you, for your family, for your life. You lived on the mainland for a while. You've come back. And how do you describe this trade-off for you? How did you make this trade-off? What was kind of going around? Obviously, we know what you've chosen. I want to know kind of how you got there and how you came to it and the things that you thought of and things that you'd like to share.
Yeah, to me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, there's no better place to raise kids. There's no better place to live. There's no better quality of life. Is there a lot of things that are frustrating about Hawaii and, not perfect? Absolutely. But they're easy to overlook. And that's one of the things I think, one of the reasons why sometimes the systemic or the government stuff doesn't change is because people aren't that motivated to get involved politically here, because it's just, life is so good, right? You get up in the morning and you go, the water turns on, the roads are there, the schools are okay. I mean, there isn't a huge incentive to be active in changing the stuff that frustrates you, because there's so much good, positive stuff to look around at every single day. So yeah, to me, I mean, we got one life to live, right? And you can't take the money with you. So I'd rather die broke in Hawaii than rich in, someplace I was miserable in. So that's why I gotta go to the mainland every once in a while to remember that. I mean, I don't ever take it for granted, but it strengthens that mindset when I go somewhere in the mainland. And I think, man, especially like a place like Vegas. I love visiting Vegas, for a few days and doing the whole Vegas thing. But I just think, like, I would be miserable if I had to live here. And but could I afford a way bigger house and maybe private school for my kids, and who knows what else, they're on the same amount of income probably, but definitely not a place I would want to live every single day.
Alex said it, man. One life to live. That's it. That is it right there. I mean, what was that you had a great line that kind of flew by me. You said, "I'd rather you said I'd rather die poor." And how was that? What did you say?
Yeah. I'd rather die broken happy than rich and rich and unhappy.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. That is that, and that is that is the fundamental. And Hawaii really kind of brings that to really kind of makes that sort of obvious, right? It's obvious about that Hawaii because that's just the way it works. Scott, um, you know,
and Willem, just one more thing.
yeah,
I went
yeah.
to not last weekend because of the weekend before. Went to the beach with my family and my friend's family, and I was sitting there, and it was Kekahakai State Park here on it's right north of the airport. But I was sitting, we're sitting there under these palm trees and looking across this white sandy bay, and all the palm trees had just been manicured. It's a state park, so they're all perfect. There's no dead fronds on them or anything. And I'm sitting there looking at this like there are people that save their entire life to experience this one time, and I can do this any day of the week, and like that's priceless. I mean, just huge, right? So that's the kind of stuff I never take for granted, for sure.
Amen to that, brother. I thought about that very same thing. I just went I went body surfing at Makapu'u, which I try to do twice a week. So I went to Makapu'u on Wednesday, and it was a magic moment. The waves were perfect, and I was the only, Makapu'u is a pretty good sized beach. It's a pretty good sized bay, and I was the only guy there. It was just me. And it's like priceless. Cannot buy that. And I do, and I do this twice a week, right? So yeah, absolutely. Good. Scott, what about you, Scott? What comes to mind? What's been sort of your decision process? How did you come to this? Where's your trade-off work? What's your justification basically for taking the hit, if you will, the financial hit in exchange for what we have?
Yeah, I checked out one of the videos you had done before, kind of on this similar topic, and and it was a really good. It made me think about it. It's like, hey, if money and possessions are really important to you, then Hawaii is probably not the best place for you. It's a humble state, and our economic potential is just so limited because of the number of people, our isolation, all that kind of capacity. But if experiences are important to you, and like you said, happiness and just everything that's here, then it's the perfect spot. And that's the exact conversation I had. Actually, May was 22 years now, or 23 years. I came here with a return trip ticket. After 3 months, I had to extend it to the end of the year. At the end of the year, I had to ask myself, do I really want to work in a white walled office with no windows to save my money up to come out here to this experience for 2 weeks every year, or do I want to live it? And I chose to live it. And I figured I'd figured out the financial side and the other component, but I wanted the lifestyle, and I wanted the happiness that comes with it for me, which is the consistent warm weather, the laid back lifestyle, the access to the ocean, the beautiful environment and things. And so that was my discussion with myself internally. And now I'm here 20 some years later because of that. That was a pivotal point in my life in making that decision.
Yeah, that is the trade-off, right, Scott? I mean, the video I think you probably are referring to was I put on the channel, "Can you afford it, and is it worth it?" And the "is it worth it?" I came up with this distinction. Thanks for reminding about it. This distinction is, are you a materialist or are you a spiritualist? And I didn't make materialism a pejorative, like a negative word, but materialist meaning, do you like having things? If you like having things, Hawaii's not right for you because things are expensive, they're hard to come by, you can't store them, it's going to cost you, you won't be happy because the things that you want are way cheaper and higher quantity on the mainland. However, if you're a what I call a spiritualist, non-material things are valuable to you. Like here, Auntie Joyce just made a great comment. So here's what she said. But thinking about it, I am, quote, rich with friends, good health, really rich with my money, Social Security check, and I'm living in Hawaii. So Auntie Joyce just gave sort of the elements of what I would call a spiritual, a non-material life, the non-material values, right? Friends, good health, right? Those are, and living in Hawaii. Those are these non-material things, these spiritual things, right? If you like those kinds of things, Hawaii's a deal, right? Hawaii's a deal if you think about that. The material things, it's a different story. That was the way I put it for it. Let's catch up. Anything else you guys want to share? I'm gonna there's a bunch of comments. Just chime in when you feel like it. So Dylan, why don't you make your comments, and Scott, you make yours.
Yeah, same. So I always have this discussion with people that don't have a huge budget, but they want to live here. But so if you don't have a huge budget, you're gonna have to be 45 minutes away from town, right? You're gonna be in one of the more rural areas of the island. But if you put it into context, right, you can either commute to work for 45 minutes or an hour into a city from a rural area where you're gonna have a lower cost of living anyways, or you could commute into work here in Kona, where there's beautiful coastline views most of the way. You're driving through forests, cute little towns. I mean, like, you're going to have that either way, but what's going to make you happier? Being on a freeway, bumper to bumper traffic for an hour, or being on a country road that has beautiful views? It's just a matter of what makes you happier, and it's not a downside necessarily, right? And I know lots of people that end up doing that, and they love making that decision and saying, it's no problem that I live an hour away from town, because that hour is an hour of enjoyment when I'm going in, instead of sitting in traffic or public transportation, or the subway, or who knows what else. You could choose your 1 hour and how you spend it.
Scott, hold your thought for a second. I have to kind of share to chime in, Dylan, on what you said. So I go to church sometimes by myself on Sunday. And I've got two ways I can go. I could go the urban route, which will get me to church in 15 minutes, or I can go literally around the island, which takes me 45 minutes. In a convertible Porsche. Which one do you think I take? I take the 45-minute route, right? Because it goes along the coastline. It's got great roads. I see the mountains. I see these amazing views. It's, along the coastline. It's just amazing. Up the mountains, up the Pali, through the Pali Tunnel. It's like, wow. It's incredible. And it's a 45-minute, and especially gas today, it's a lot more expensive, right? 45 versus 15. 15's the urban route. So funny, like on an island, right? I turn right, I go 15 minutes. I turn left, it takes me 45. But it's the best. Anyway, Scott, go ahead. What were you going to add in?
I was going to say, actually, materialistic stuff, flashy cars and things like that actually are kind of frowned upon over here, because it is a humble state. That reminds me of a couple of things. I mean, I have a client that lives in Kaneohe that travels over the mountains, and he says every day when he comes back from work, he says it's all worth it when he pops out the H1 freeway, and it has just that spectacular view looking out across Kaneohe Bay, the sandbar out to the Ko'olaus. He says at that point when I'm driving home, he goes, every day I'm reminded of why it's worth it.
That view, I've caught it on some videos. I'm going to go back and get it again. That I know what he's talking about. There's a couple of them, but that one where you're coming from town and you're on the Like, and you, for me, the one that's really dramatic is you're coming on the Like, you come through the tunnel and you pop out of the tunnel, and these majestic Ko'olau mountains are like right there. And, to me, it's like, I just kind of want to look up as I'm driving, as much, keep one eye on the road and keep one eye up on the mountains. It's why I have a convertible. And why the top's always down if it's not raining. That's why the top's always down if it's not raining. And that's what it's all about. We got a bunch of comments and they're all really awesome. I'm going to pop them all in because they're really good. We're going to go through them really, really quickly, but they're amazing. Let me kind of pop over here. Let's see. So, let's see. Alex, come to Hawaii twice a year. Hotel price have tripled since the beginning. Oh, okay. We'll talk about that later. Hold on to that. Alex, Ray's back. Uncle Ray is with us. Excellent. Mark Whitehill is an alumni of the Islander Ohana and has moved to Oahu. The wealth trade-off, worth it. Exactly. Worth it. Auntie Joyce, it's all about being happy, of course. And Aloha Supernova agrees, as does Patrick, in the eye of the beholder. Exactly. Just like Auntie Joyce says, she's wealthy because she has friends. Judy says, want to be happy. Exactly. That's what we want, right? And Norm, no doubt, Hawaii every time. Alex been trying to move for the last 10 years, trying to get my wife to move here, and that's her excuse for not moving here. I'd rather be happy in Hawaii. Don't need all of them things I have in the mainland. Yeah, Alex, but what the wife says is what you got to do. if you want to stay married. So don't forget about that one, because you're not going to be happy if your wife's not happy. That's for darn sure. Janice says, our plan is to be happy in Hawaii. That's it. That's the plan. And Patrick would choose it for the air. Christy, I'd rather live in Hawaii and be happy. I already live on the edge, so it's not an issue. Nothing worse than hating where you are. You know, Christy, that's it. If you're going to, that's the other part of it, right? If you're going to live on the edge, might as well live on the edge and live in Hawaii, because you're going to live on the edge anyway. One life to live, right? Exactly. That's what we said. Chris, I take happy. You'd be wealthy because you're living in Hawaii. Money isn't everything. I wouldn't want to be rich and unhappy. Isn't that it? And really for again, everyone's different. And most of you are in the same, look, we're all here together, right, Frank? One big ohana here. We're all about, you're here because you love Hawaii. So we're all kind of pre-selected to this kind of thing, right? But there are people who do try to, I think it's fruitless, but try to get happiness by buying stuff. And that's why you got people with, 5 cars and 5,000 square foot homes, and they're amazing. This is the one instant where money, in fact, does. This is the one instant where money does, in fact, buy happiness. Mark, I'm not sure where that one is, but let's find out about that. I'd like to know more about that. Dave, not third world, but 2.5 shipping, healthcare, but love it here with great sunsets, laid back lifestyle. That's it. That's the trade-off, Dave. That's the trade-off. Not quite third world, maybe 1.5, maybe 2, but certainly you can't, like the scene that Dylan just said. You can't get that. Joan did it. She downsized considerably to be here, but I would do it again in a heartbeat, because this is where I've always wanted to be. Lifelong journey, Joan. It's a great story that you made. A lot of folks with a lot of wealth aren't happy. That's it. Worried about the money. That's it. And that's the trade-off. And that's, to me, ultimately fruitless. Not for everyone, but some are. Chat's saving $6K a month, dude. If you could pull that off, God bless you. Pull the save $6K a month, starting a new job a month ago, hoping to buy land next year. Keep saving. You'll make it happen. There's no doubt about it. As Auntie Joyce's comment, give me a catamaran and a Jeep and I'm in heaven. But that's stuff, Alex. See, that's stuff. If you need a catamaran and a Jeep, that's stuff. That's not Hawaii. So think about that. Sorry to challenge you on that one. Doug, the one from Chicago, been living in Honolulu since December. Love it every single day. Didn't miss all those snow and bone-chilling temperatures, right? Like in February, right? You know what I'm talking about, right, Doug? You know what I'm talking about. Bone-chilling is right, through the bone. And, Joan and Joyce, you two definitely have to get together. There's no doubt about that. Chow says, living at an Airbnb in Kurtistown early May. Distance wasn't too far, but the 1-lane road going to 25 or 30 took a while. I was going 5 on the unpaved road. Yeah, that's the trade-off. That is the trade-off. All right. I think that's it. So we wrapped up all those. I think